Welcome, Devika Wood, CEO of Brain Plus. You recently entered the position as CEO. Can you perhaps start by telling us about your background and what your main focus will be as the new CEO?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on this interview today. In terms of my background, I've worked in digital health pretty much for the last sort of 15 years, mainly in the UK market, across both the private and the public sector. I started off my career in actually cancer research, but shortly got the opportunity to join a company called Babylon, which was the first ever unicorn to leave the UK using remote GP services. So I was sort of instrumental in looking at how we could design frameworks and regulatory and governance procedures to enable that prescribing through the phone. And that gave me my real sort of passion for digital health. I realized that actually technology can transform the way that healthcare is delivered. So that sort of embarked my next sort of 15 odd years into the world of health tech. I've then sort of worked in a number of different startups and scale-ups, both launching and commercializing in the UK, but also into the US and other markets. And had the opportunity to build my own business when I was 26, a company called Vida, which was a tech-enabled care provider. So that was essentially a domiciliary care provider that was tech-enabled. So we built our entire technology platform to seamlessly enable carers to be connected to patients in their own home. And then we were building a logistics and predictive analytics platform to enable accurate monitoring of people, the elderly, when they were living in their own homes. I've also worked across insurance in senior executive roles and got the opportunity to join Brain Plus last year in the COO position. My passion for dementia care has always been fundamentally inside of me, which is why I launched my first business. I cared for my grandma for 12 years who had dementia as a young carer from the age of 10 until I was about 21, 22 when she passed away. And it left a real profound impact on my life, both from being a young carer, but also seeing the lack of availability of services, the lack of availability of treatments. And so when I got the opportunity to join Brain Plus, I couldn't actually believe how incredible it is, the product that we've built, and the opportunity for this therapy to truly kind of change people's lives that are living with dementia. So it's a real pleasure and a real privilege to be part of this journey.
Yeah, and for the people that perhaps aren't familiar with the company yet, can you briefly explain what you're doing and perhaps summarize the last half year?
Yeah, of course. So at Brain Plus, we're essentially enabling those living with dementia to live better lives. We are enabling health and care providers to deliver better dementia care, more effective dementia care. How we're doing that, we are building a dementia care platform that's scalable. Our first product is called Isla, your CST assistant. CST, which is cognitive stimulation therapy, is the world's leading non-drug treatment for dementia. It's proven to delay cognitive decline by 4 to 6 months in those with mild to moderate dementia. It's endorsed by NICE in the UK, which is the National Institute for Care and Excellence, which means that it's prescribed by the NHS for people to have as a treatment or a therapy. The way that it's delivered is group therapy. So 5 to 8 people will generally be in the groups, and it will be facilitated by a CST facilitator who's trained in CST. The barrier to training is very low. It's less than a day, and we can train up healthcare workers and care workers. And essentially, the most archaic version of CST has been very paper-based, very resource-heavy. And we've developed a medical device, which is a platform which essentially has all of the activities, over 200 plus clinically validated, expertly validated activities in the platform to enable CST facilitators to deliver CST more effectively, compliant against the NICE recommendations, and deliver it more seamlessly across health and care providers. CST is endorsed across 39 countries. So it's a well-endorsed, well-researched, well-evidenced therapy, and really does prove and have great outcomes for people that are taking part in CST.
Yeah, and to support this growth journey ahead, you recently conducted a rights issue. Can you give some short comment about the proceeds and how they will be used?
Of course. So we're really very much now in the commercialization phase. We've spent a number of years at Brain Plus really focusing on R&D. Creating a medical device is really difficult and takes a lot of time and effort and research. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been working with providers that are delivering CST across Denmark to enable an effective person-centered approach to building this platform for CST facilitators. We've now moved out of that R&D phase, having got the UK medical device certification back in last year in October. And our focus now really is commercializing. We've got a really, really strong commercial strategy in the UK market, focusing on the care home sector and the NHS, which is the memory assessment units. So the proceeds are really about driving the commercial strategy and essentially keeping our costs as low as possible, as lean as possible, to really strengthen up the commercial function of the organization so that we can really hit those targets and really create some momentum in the market in the UK.
Yeah. And you have both communicated the current sales pipeline that you're working on and also some financial targets. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, of course. So we've spent the large part of sort of this year building up a really strong sales pipeline. Just to give a bit of a, I suppose, insight into what the market is that we're actually targeting. So the UK care home market is north of around 17,000 care homes. What we are targeting is 10,000 of those care homes, which are residential homes. This means that the patients or the residents that are living in these care homes are viable to utilize CST. If you go into a nursing home, generally they've got more advanced stage dementia. So that's our real target market. The memory assessment units, so these are all part of the NHS. There are roughly about 200 memory assessment units. They're all attached to the ICSs in the NHS. And they specifically diagnose dementia and then refer onwards for treatment. And that can be medication, it can be psychiatric help, it can be this therapy, CST. So that's just an overview of kind of the market that we're targeting. In terms of our sales pipeline, so we currently have that representing around 620,000 euros. We've closed our first UK sales contract in March. 20% of our sales leads have advanced to stakeholder engagement stage, including product demos booked and proposals being sent. And then 3/4 of the current total pipeline value is actually derived from large group operators. So what that actually means is we have a SaaS model. And our SaaS model is essentially an annual license that we provide a site, which is a care home site, to have access to ILE or CST, including training of one individual, and they'll have access to that model or that license for that full year. Multiple care homes are part of a single group. So you'll have sort of large group operators that often have anywhere between 3 and 200 plus sites operating underneath them. So we've got a real opportunity here through multi-site potential renewals and uplifts. Even if we sign one site and it goes well, we've got an opportunity to uplift directly through contract renewals. In terms of the Denmark and the Danish market, so we've closed contracts with 5 municipalities, including 2 extension contracts. And then we've got 1 3-year contract that's been closed, which is really exciting. And it shows the real trust and the value that we provide in terms of our platform. When you look at the kind of pipeline and the forecast, we're really centering on high volumes of smaller, mid-sized annual contracts with upfront payments. Because the annual license fee is going to be paid up front, it means that we've got cash flow expectations for 2025 increased, but the ARR forecast lowered slightly. And that's because we're just basically recognizing the fact that people will pay up front for those annual licenses and that we can then recognize that cash. But the new SaaS pricing model that we have really aligns closely, and the cash flow aligns closely with the annual recurring revenue. So we're in a good position, and it's all about now closing the contracts that we have and the sites that we have and the value of that pipeline, and then ensuring a real streamlined delivery of the service, and then uplift in the contracts. So we'll see probably a good uplift in 2026 coming as well.
Yeah, and I suppose you just explained why you're aiming specifically for the UK market, but are there any plans, like looking a few years ahead, that you're going to expand in other parts of Europe or America, perhaps?
Yeah, so we've really started looking into the other areas that CST is endorsed. As I said, there's 39 countries that endorse it, which is really good for us because it means that we can do a land and expand approach to our model. It means that wherever CST is being endorsed, whether it's an institution, whether it's a health system, we have KOLs or experts there that can essentially drive the implementation of our service into that territory or that country. The US is a really exciting one for us, and it's an area that we've started to scope out in terms of the kind of market expansion or the go-to-market strategy. But there's also APAC, which is a really, really good opportunity to look at. Australia, New Zealand, where they have a really high aging population in very remote areas, and a lot of people within New Zealand and Australia specifically really tend to kind of, it's a way of life to enter into care homes. So we have a really nice opportunity there in terms of a market. And then Asia and China, so India and China seem to be a really important and exciting route to market as well. So at the moment, we're sort of scoping out what area would be the highest likelihood for a positive expansion or land and expansion strategy, and seeing where we've got the most positive sort of KOLs or experts that we can utilize to expedite that market expansion strategy.
Yeah, seems like there are many things going on. To round it off, can you perhaps summarize maybe one or two key messages that you would like to send to investors that are looking at the company?
Yeah, so I suppose this is a really exciting opportunity. The more that I've been delving into it and seeing the value and the benefits that CST brings to patients' lives and people living with dementia, the more I am astounded that this is not taken up further. And the reason being is that it has never worked before because of the antiquated, old school, paper-based methodology of delivering CST. And what we've developed is really groundbreaking. It's really game changing. We've just gone into a care home and launched CST and Isla into their home. And the 9 people that were being trained, so care managers, activity coordinators, they were absolutely like overwhelmed with how incredible this is, and they really saw the value and what it can bring to their residents and their patients. So that was really eye-opening. The potential that we can do around capturing outcomes and really proving and showing that delay in cognitive decline is incredible. And not to forget that this is the leading cause of death in women in the UK currently. And research suggests that actually women that partake in CST have a better outcome of quality of life. So there's a real impetus here for us to be driving into that area to really create some real outcomes and change in people's lives and people living with dementia. So yeah.
Yeah. With that, I thank you very much for taking the questions, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you so much.